Christ is still risen, and it's still Easter. You are listening to the Catholic Lunch Break, where we catch up on everything Catholic in Houston. Thank you so much for joining us today. We have a great show lined up for you. Matter of fact, it's been so busy. There is so much to catch up on and so much coming up this week that I think we're really going to get a very community calendar kind of feel for today's show, even more than usual. So I want to give out the phone number, and I want you to write this down because I'm not going to ask you any questions, but if you have something to chime in on about something that's coming up in your parish, in your life, or one of the events that I'm going to be mentioning or talking about that you either attended or are planning to go to, or you just want to chime in with a question, take this phone number down, 832-364-6044. I'll do my best to keep an eye on that, 832-364-6044. And my name is Tim Motz. This is the 1 hour each week where we stop talking about the national news. We stop talking about the big topical issues, and we focus here on Houston, the Catholic stuff in Houston. If it's Catholic and it's in Houston, it's here on the Catholic Lunch Break. So we're going to enjoy our show today. Let me introduce you to the crew. David Magianes running our soundboard today. David's got multiple hats. You're our business manager. You're the sports guy. You're the producer, board op for the show. I mean, what do you not do, man?
Yeah, good question. I don't know. But anyway, Tim, to kind of say what you were saying, it was a busy week.
You felt it too.
Yeah.
Okay.
So how you doing? How you feeling, man?
I'm really tired. I'm only on my fourth cup of coffee, so if I talk too fast, that's why, but I still sound tired. Anyway, I saw this great meme once. This is a beat-up old pickup truck, and they're putting some premium gas in it, and the caption said, "This is what I feel like after I get no sleep and have a bunch of coffee."
Right.
Anyway, okay, but running our video today is Valeria, our Cristo Rey intern. Valeria, where can people find that video? Do you know where? I mean, you're producing it. Yeah.
You always say it.
I know. So Facebook, YouTube, or Twitter, just look for GRN Online. That is where our video is. GRN Online on Facebook, YouTube, or Twitter. And did you have a great week, Valeria?
Yeah, I did. I slept so much.
Yeah, because last week we talked about your big soccer match, so I guess that's over now, and you got a little more time to focus on your papers and tests and stuff.
Yeah, all my homework. Finals are coming up, so I got to focus on that.
Looking forward to the summer?
Yes.
Okay.
I mean, of course, I'm going to be working, but I mean, of course, finally I don't have to.
I mean, we'll miss you because you're not going to be working here.
I know, stop.
We'll give you a big going away party when it's your last week, so you be sure and tell us about that.
Yes, thank you.
And also helping us out, Carol Herrera, our wonderful super volunteer. Carol, how are you doing?
Good afternoon. I'm doing just fine, thank you. But I did have a long weekend as well.
Yeah, let's go ahead and update people on your pilgrimage. Carol's going on a pilgrimage to visit every single church in the Archdiocese, as has been highlighted in the Texas Catholic Herald.
Yes.
And
I was humbled by that. Thank you so much.
You said you went on a really long drive.
I went on a long, windy, hilly road to Navasota, Tim.
Navasota?
And so I did it with love, and
Is that even in our Archdiocese?
Yes, it is.
Can you even hear our radio signal up there?
Yes, Northwest, and I kept it on the dial there. But also, I prayed my rosary on the way up there because I do not like the winding roads, but I made it.
You're
and
it
was worth doing. Yes.
No, very cool. So the church up there is Christ Our Light?
Christ Our Light, which is off Highway 90 going into Navasota. And the pastor there is Reverend Giovanni Wynn.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
Neat.
And the church is mid-sized. It's a very humble church, but has beautiful pictures and statues. And they also have Stations of the Cross inside and outside the church. And that's what I've noticed on a lot of the churches a little outside of Houston. They have a lot of those Stations of the Cross around a pond, around a track, or somewhere in the front or the back of the church. And I especially love the sanctuary and a beautiful garden of Our Lady of Guadalupe. You can walk down this little garden pathway, and then you see Our Lady of Guadalupe there, and you can sit and reflect and pray, or just sit there and, just pray,
Well, that's one of the cool things
about... Talk to our Virgin. Talk to our Virgin.
That's one of the cool things about visiting other parishes like you're doing is you get to see patterns and differences and things,
Exactly. And I went to the 1 o'clock Mass, and it was in Spanish, and there were a lot of people there, and it was just so beautiful in terms of the music, and it was more of a traditional type of mass, but it was really, really nice.
Oh, neat.
But in case somebody wants to look up the church, it's ChristOurLight.org. And what I found interesting, Tim, is that it's like our St. Andrew Pray. You know, you see this big sign outside by
Yeah,
the freeway,
yeah.
and it's a small church. Well, I'm coming down 90, and you see this big old sign that says Christ Our Light Church, and the church is really a small, modern, modest
yeah,
church.
yeah,
That
okay.
was really interesting, but I really enjoyed Mass yesterday. You know, the third Sunday of Easter, correct?
Third Sunday
Third
of
Sunday
Easter.
of
That's where
Easter.
we are.
Yes.
But I want to be clear. You were able to pick up AM 1430.
I was able to pick
in
up our
Navasota.
station. Yes, I was.
Okay, all you
the
people
way.
in Tomball
Yes.
complaining about the signal. I mean, you've got no excuse.
Yes,
If you don't have a good radio receiver, download the app.
Going and coming, Tim. You could hear the radio station. In fact, I was listening to Father Pacqua talk about.
Oh, that's great.
Yes.
Oh,
He's
speaking
talking
of
on
the
his
weekend,
show.
I'm getting ahead of myself.
Okay,
I am
sure.
getting ahead of myself. We need to do our opening prayer
Oh, okay, yes,
before
that's right.
before we let the
There you go.
conversation get
Okay,
out of hand. So, in the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit, Amen.
Amen.
Remember, O most gracious Virgin Mary, that never was it known that anyone who fled to thy protection, implored thy help, or sought thine intercession was left unaided. Inspired by this confidence, I fly unto thee, O Virgin of Virgins, my Mother. To thee do I come, before thee I stand, sinful and sorrowful. O Mother of the Word incarnate, despise not my petitions, but in thy mercy hear and answer me. In the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit, Amen.
Amen.
Okay, so what you reminded me of actually
Mm-hmm.
was listening on the weekend. Have you heard The Spirit World? It's on Saturdays at 10 a.m.
I listen every weekend.
Yeah, GRN has been broadcasting this for a few months now, but we took over the production of it about a month ago. So I'm actually the producer for it on Saturday mornings. And I've been wondering kind of what it sounds like to the audience. So what did you get from that show, The Spirit World? Can you describe it for the audience?
Well, I really enjoyed the topics. They talk about some things we really need to be aware of these days, and about more people going toward the demonic, Tim. Looking at going to get your tarot cards read, your future read, things like that, your palm read. And they talk about the evil spirits, and a lot of things, unfortunately, things are turning in that direction. But they talked about those topics, and two of the things they talked about were two of the movies.
We talked about exorcism in movies this last week. Yeah.
Exorcism in movies, and I mean, I found it pretty interesting, and I'm really enjoying the fact that.
Do you watch
people-
horror movies much?
Not really, but I did this weekend.
Oh, you did? Okay.
I did.
What did you see?
I watched The Pope's Exorcist, and it's not as scary as one might think. It's not like, I think, the original Exorcist, but it was scary. It brings to light the fact that there is evil around. There are devils out there, and they're looking for souls. And if you're weak-minded, and the evil one can penetrate and will sit in you. And it was really scary.
Getting educated on a
getting
show like
educated.
this,
Exactly.
that really helps.
And they stress the fact about praying, and especially to our guardian angel. And bottom line, they stress the prayer life, and that's one thing that I really appreciated.
So what's interesting is that The Pope's Exorcist was actually the one that they didn't recommend too much, because it's based on a historical figure, who Father Amorth, who recently died, but it's they take a lot of artistic license with it just to tell a story that is kind of empty, I think, from the spiritual perspective. But there's another movie called Nefarious that they recommended a lot. They said really gets it depicts what an actual demon possession looks like from actual exorcist points of view. So that was fascinating to me.
However it's supposed to look, it looked bad as it was yesterday. I mean, you remember
Right.
the original Exorcist, the movie,
Yeah.
and this, when someone is
That one's kinda
possessed.
all blown out of
it
proportion
really
there.
looks bad. And the show did have a little bit of humor to it, too, and some things were a little too unbelievable, even for nowadays. And so that's what I'm saying. But it was okay. It was pretty good.
Well, okay, but
Yeah.
I can guarantee you that the
But I
more
do
you
wanna
the
go
more you
see the other
listen
one.
to the Spirit World on Saturday mornings, the more you are going to be educated about demons and angels and how they all work together.
That's right.
Yeah.
Tim.
Yeah,
That's
God
right.
is in control. I love to say that. Okay, well, anyway, so that was cool to talk about this last weekend. But David, you and I, as we mentioned earlier, had a big week last week. We were out late several nights. And listeners, if you want to comment on anything we're talking about, 832-364-6044, 832-364-6044, especially if you attended the Archdiocesan 175th anniversary gala last Thursday night. Now, this is probably like the biggest gala I've ever seen. David, do you remember how many people were in that room?
Over 1,100.
Over 1,100 people.
Yeah, I don't know who counted, but Cardinal.
Oh,
Nardo-
surely it was Nick that counted, right?
Yeah,
Nick,
yeah. So it was
Nick
over
Sawicki, yeah.
1,100.
Yeah.
And we should thank the Thibodeaus.
Absolutely. Cecil and Farron
Farron.
Thibodeau, they invited the whole radio staff to come out and sit at their table. So it was an absolute blast. I got to meet them in person for
Me
the
too.
first time.
Yeah.
But the evening, celebrating 175 years of this archdiocese. I mean, it wasn't an archdiocese the whole time. I mean, it started off as the Diocese of Galveston. Right on the frontier. One of the things they mentioned in one of the videos was that Galveston, Houston, was right on the edge of the world from the Vatican's perspective, like the frontier. This is like as far as the Western civilization has gotten in 1847 or whenever it was.
Right.
Yeah.
And it was a great evening. I didn't know what to expect actually when I got there, but I was blown away by everything, the way it was set up. Every detail was covered.
They really pulled out all the stops for this one.
And they did. So thank you. Great job for the Archdiocese for doing this.
Yeah, and a lot of honorees there, including the Scanlon Foundation. I won't mention everybody, but Scanlon Foundation and Ray White, and there were several honorees that they spent some time talking about.
And all the bishops that were there as well.
11 bishops, yeah.
I mean, how many times does that happen?
Well, I mean, every year at the Texas Bishops Conference. But
okay, but we're not invited to that.
No. But they get together. It was very, very cool. So, yeah, Archdiocesan 175th anniversary gala. I don't know how many more events they have planned for this 100. I don't know what the big word is for the 175th. It's not sesquicentennial. It's
something.
Whatever. But you can go to archgh.org/175 to look that up. But then the following day, and listeners, again, if you want to comment on any of these, 832-364-6044. But we went to, broadcasted the Priest versus Seminarians basketball game. What, the 7th annual? 6th annual?
6th annual.
6th annual. Oh, my goodness. That was a much more exciting game this year than it was last year. Even though we went back to Strake, so the crowd was smaller than it was at Rice last year, but the points, the scoring was a lot higher.
Yeah, it was a lot. It was a great game, and right at the end, Tim, the Priest got within 7. Right at the end, within a minute, they got to 7. Crowd was cheering.
It was a decisive victory for the seminarians. They led most of the game, but then right at the end, I mean, the priests were putting up a good fight.
I know.
It was a really good rally, and right up to the last buzzer, we were still, I know they're 7 points behind, but the crowd was on their feet.
I know. It was great, and the crowd was great. Again, HoustonVocations.com, Strake Jesuit College Preparatory School. Great job.
Oh, yeah. Shout out to Strake for producing that great video.
Yes.
My son was with me there. He was sitting next to me while I was producing the radio side of it. And so when we looked at the video later on, we was like, oh, that's Justin there. And his classmates from his school were saying, oh, you're on TV.
Yeah, exactly. So shout out, received a lot of comments, positive comments on the camera work. So, hopefully, Tim, our crew didn't mess it up too bad.
No, we didn't do anything with the cameras. That was great. So, shout out to Strake for producing that. If you want to see the video, it's like a 2-hour game there.
Yeah.
You can go to our GRN YouTube page. If you're there watching right now, you can probably just click on over and find it, Priest versus Seminarians. It was live last Thursday, and it'll be there as far as I know until you could share it with anyone you like.
Yeah.
I'll include it in the show notes here on
I can do
on the
that.
page.
Yeah, I can do that. Yes.
Okay, great. So, that was absolutely wonderful. I hope that a lot of people really see the benefit for vocations.
Yes.
For having when you become a priest, you don't give up your humanity. You are still a person. It's not just your vocation doesn't consume you. You are expressing your humanity through your vocation, and that includes your sports. That includes, having fun. That includes, getting out and mixing it up with the seminarians.
Real quick, Father TJ, he is so deeply rooted into this game. He came afterwards, and he was.
He loves to brush up and talk on the mic.
Yeah. He gave us a great halftime report, and I saw Father Preston talking to a young kid, about 10, 12 years old.
Yeah.
And that right there was a seed planted.
There you go.
The kid was just like, he was happy. He was joyful talking to Father Preston.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I could see Father just saying, keep your prayers up, keep going to Mass and, keep saying all the right things.
Yeah.
Seeds were planted.
Seeds were planted. So if you want your son to have a great basketball career, they can still become a priest.
Exactly.
Well, that's actually a great transition. Do we have a sports report for our Catholic high schools?
Yes, we do, Tim. So, hey, Dave, the sports guy here, rolling out your Catholic high school sports report for the Houston area. So let's start with boys baseball. St. Thomas Eagles crushed Antonian Prep Apaches. Straight Jesuit Fighting Crusaders lost to Pearland Oilers. And O'Connell Buccaneers lost to Second Baptist Eagles. And now girls softball. St. Pius X Panthers lost to Antonian Prep Apaches. St. Agnes Tigers defeated Houston Christian Mustangs. And O'Connell Buccaneers crushed First Baptist Christian Warriors. And that's a wrap of this week's high school sports report for the week of April 17th. Keep your radio tuned to AM 1430 for next week's recap of Houston's Catholic sports. And now back to you, Tim.
Good stuff. Good stuff. Supporting the Catholic schools and keeping an eye on the Catholic sports. So one quick reminder before we go to our break and our main interviews today. The prayer breakfast is tomorrow.
Wow.
Okay, so if you have not, Carol, I heard a gasp over there. Have you not registered for the prayer breakfast yet?
I'm registering for the breakfast as soon as we leave the show. As soon as the show is over, I am going to be on the computer buying my ticket.
Yeah,
yes.
there is still time. So go to grnonline.com/Houston Breakfast, and the breakfast is only $10. We're going to be at La Finca tomorrow morning, 7 a.m. We'll get you done in time for work. The speaker is Joel Matthews, the founder, the guy who had the original idea for the original Catholic Radio Prayer Breakfast back in 2015.
Wow.
And the leading our prayers is going to be Deacon Bill Wagner from St. Bartholomew. Great, funny guy. I love him. And this is a great chance for you to network with people. If you network with other Catholics, we got plumbers, we got lawyers, we got realtors, we got Mary Kay consultants. We got all kinds of professionals that come.
Right.
So bring your business cards and meet some new people and start doing business with some other Catholics, and maybe we can build up and our Catholic culture and maybe reverse some of the trends of our secular culture, which is really quickly becoming post-Christian. We're going to be actually talking about that in our next segment with Tim Colbert from the Archdiocese Office of Adolescent Catechesis, because how do we keep our teens in church when this culture is so strongly pulling them away? So stick around with us. You're listening to the Catholic Lunch Break on AM 1430 KSHJ, part of the Guadalupe Radio Network, and we'll be back right after this.
After 8 years, the Guadalupe Radio Network Prayer Breakfast is still going strong. Join us at La Finca Mexican Restaurant in Katy, April 25th from 7 to 9 a.m. Meet CPA Joel Matthews, the founder of our Radio Prayer Breakfast, bringing Catholics together for networking, fellowship, and food. Deacon Bill Wagner of St. Bartholomew will lead us in an opening prayer. Breakfast is only $10, and business sponsorships are also available. Don't forget your business cards. Sign up at grnonline.com.
Southeast Houston Cardiology is a proud sponsor of this Guadalupe Radio Network station and The Doctor Is In with Dr. Ray Garendi. Southeast Houston Cardiology has been serving patients with heart disease and vascular disease with up-to-date, compassionate, and comprehensive care for more than 20 years. Southeast Houston Cardiology has 2 locations, Webster and Pasadena. You can contact them online at southeasthoustancardiology.com or 281-338-4004.
Deacon Glenn Trahan here, owner of the TRW family of companies and proud sponsor of the Guadalupe Radio Network. For 60 years, TRW has helped our clients to optimize the use of their facilities with operable wall products, creating effective, flexible, and acoustically controlled workspaces, making them more productive and successful. And TRW is committed to supporting ministries that also make our community and our world a better place, just like this Guadalupe Radio Network station. You can contact me at trwfamily.com. God bless.
Listen to The Spirit World with Debbie Georgianni and Adam Bly.
Demonic activity appears to be on the rise. I'm Debbie
Debbie Georgiani, and I invite you to join Adam Bly and me this weekend for the Spirit World.
On the Spirit World, we offer a Catholic perspective on angels, demons, and how the spiritual and physical worlds interact.
Saturdays at 10 a.m. Central, 11 a.m. Eastern on the Guadalupe Radio Network and other EWTN radio affiliates. Visit grnonline.com/spiritworld.
You're listening to the Catholic Lunch Break, where we catch up on everything Catholic in Houston. We've got so much to talk about today, and I want to give you the phone number in case you want to comment on anything we're promoting or chatting about. 832-364-6044. Maybe you want to share what's going on in your Catholic world. 832-364-6044. We're going to be talking about the Equestrian Order of the Holy Sepulchre in a little bit, and their wonderful work supporting Christians in the Holy Land. And we're also going to be talking about how to keep our teens in church. But right now, let's check in on the pro-life world. It's time now for our Loving Choice Minute, where we check in with Loving Choice, the only Catholic pregnancy help center here in the Houston area. And I have joining me right now, Erin Colaco. Erin, welcome to the Catholic Lunch Break. And would you tell us a little bit about your role at Loving Choice? What do you do there?
I'm a volunteer. I'm an advocate and a lead of the other advocates on my shift. When ladies come to us needing help, I interview them, do pregnancy tests, help them find resources, and kind of walk with them through their pregnancy journey, helping them along the way as they request it, and reaching out to them to see how they're doing before and after their birth. That's wonderful. It sounds like it's a very rewarding kind of work. Do you get a lot out of it yourself? Yeah, I do. I've been volunteering for 2 years, and it's stressful at times, but I feel like I'm doing a lot of good for the ladies who come to us. What do you find? It is very rewarding. What do you find stressful about it? The ladies that come to us are often in very stressful circumstances themselves. They may be having problems financially. Most of them don't have insurance, and so they're worried about how they're going to afford the birth, how they're going to afford health care for themselves or for their babies. And it's just trying to be present for them and answer their questions and get them the right information they need. Yes. So if it's a stressful situation, you've been doing this for 2 years. So you feel like you're making a difference, right? Yes, I think we are making a difference. We do have limitations on what we can do, but I think we do the best with what we have, and we really provide a good resource and a link to other resources that the ladies may not know about, that organizations that can help them along their journey. Do you get to know these ladies as persons? So do you maybe find a relationship with them later on, or you get to follow up with them and see how they go if they choose life? Not with everyone. Some just come to us because all they need is the confirmation of pregnancy. They have done a home test, and all they really need is us to confirm it, and sometimes just to confirm it in their minds, because it's not always for real until they get the ultrasound or until someone else outside of their home says, yes, you indeed are pregnant, and this is your due date. Yeah. But yeah, also, we sometimes see ladies just the once, and we sometimes see them, for many months after their birth. They may continue to need resources or just have questions, or, we just like to follow up with them and see how they're doing. And sometimes they'll bring their little ones into the center, and we'll get to meet them after they're born, and that's always really fun. Oh, that's beautiful. So you've been doing this for 2 years. How did you get started? Like, why did you choose to start giving of your time to Loving Choice? Well, I started kind of in the middle of the pandemic. I was sequestering with my mother-in-law in spring, trying to help her out, and I felt like I just needed to do more and to get out of the house more and to kind of put my pro-life views into more action, so I wouldn't just be all talk. No. What do you think is the strongest argument for the pro-life position? Just that everyone from womb to tomb has a right to live life without violence, without worry that they will be murdered or executed or treated to violence in any way. We are all the image of God, and I believe that we shouldn't fall to the lie that women need abortion in order to function in society. And we're trying to, at Loving Choice, address some of the systemic issues that that women may be told that they need to choose abortion because of financial reasons or because of familial reasons or other things. We try to get to the root cause and help them remove the barriers for them choosing life.
About how many hours each week do you spend at Loving Choice?
So I'm one of the Wednesday girls, and so every Wednesday from just before 10 to usually a bit after 3 is my
great
shift.
And where do you find the most joy in this work? Like what is the thing that brightens your day the most when something happens? Like what is that thing?
I think when I always like it when women are happy to have a pregnancy confirmed. But those are the easy ones. I think it's more, I get more joy when after talking to a woman, realizing that we can get her help to get insurance and we can figure out a way to have her have this baby and it not be such a stressful event. We can help her troubleshoot and problem solve and get to a place where even though this is unexpected news, it can be joyful news as well.
That's great. That's great. And my last question is, if you could give one message to the city of Houston about Loving Choice Catholic Pregnancy Help Center, what would that message be? What would you want everyone to know?
I would want people to know that, yes, we are getting involved personally with the lives of women and that it is a very personal choice for them to be able to choose life, but also it's our responsibility to look at the political things and that we need to champion more coverage for health care and especially postpartum care for the ladies. Right now, the legislature Texas state legislature is considering extending the Medicaid to 12 months, and that would really help most of our women who are coming to the center uninsured. So talk to your politicians and tell them that if they are pro-life, that they need to put their thoughts in actions. Just making abortion illegal is not helping sustain the babies and the mothers after they are choosing life.
That is a very good word. Thank you so much, Erin, for joining us on the Catholic Lunch Break. And listeners, please go to loving-choice.org and check out the great work that Loving Choice Catholic Pregnancy Help Center is doing. You can help them out by they're trying to expand to all parts of Houston. So they need your prayers, your treasure, your time, and any other way that you can support this great Catholic work. Loving-choice.org. Always make the loving choice. Yeah, and now polls and studies have shown that young people are leaving the church as they get older, and this is probably one of the number one prayer requests that we receive here on the Guadalupe Radio Network, especially when we do our share-a-thons or even the calls that come into all of our programs like Dr. David Anders or Catholic Answers. It's about people who have left the church, usually family members, and we're concerned about them. How our culture is just sucking people away from the church. And churches are closing, churches are consolidating. We've even had, here in Houston, such a dynamic archdiocese. There are some parishes that have had to merge over the time. Some Catholic schools that have had to close. And so, one of the people that is really working on this problem the most is in our Archdiocesan Chancery downtown is Tim Colbert. Tim Colbert, who is the director of the Office of Adolescent Catechesis and Evangelization for the Archdiocese of Galveston, Houston, archdh.org/OACE. Tim Colbert, welcome to the Catholic Lunch Break.
Thank you. It's great to be here, Tim.
Yeah, great to have you here. So let's do a little get to know you first, because I always like to, make our guest human and people for the audience. So are you native to Houston?
I am a native New Englander.
New Englander, okay. So how would you describe the Catholic scene different here in Houston than it is in New England?
Well, let me start here. So I'm born and raised in New England. Spent about 10 years in South Florida, spent 24 years in Cincinnati, and I'm on 5 years in Texas.
You're bouncing up and down there.
So,
nice.
So there's all kinds of iterations there. But primarily, with Texas, the South, in so many places, the church is still alive. The Northeast, it's dying rapidly.
Oh my, wow, yeah.
Churches closing. Even in Cincinnati, where I left 5 years ago, they're hurting. They've just had to go to a model where they're kind of merging parishes and shifting priests all over the place.
Well, this is a good place to be here in Houston and the
we're vibrant.
area.
We're growing. This is great stuff.
So I'm hoping that maybe what's happening here can spread to other parts of the world and kind of reignite that fire. But we're particularly talking about kind of young people right now, because your office is the Office of Adolescent Catechesis. What do you guys particularly do and focus on?
For those who use the regular language, with the Office of Youth Ministry.
There you
but
go.
We're given a fancy name.
With bureaucracy, the more syllables you use, the more important it is.
That's right.
Yeah. Okay. So that makes yours the best.
So we focus on a few things. A lot of our work is focused on training, informing, and empowering adults who minister with youth. Mm-hmm. We do a number of direct service programs to introduce young people to Christ and what it's like to serve the church and to serve God. And then we're expanding right now our Hispanic ministry footprint for young people, so I'm really excited about that. And we have an Archdiocesan Youth Council, and they're anywhere, depending on the year, between 60 and 100 young people from across the diocese who simply are leaders who continue to inform our staff, because none of us are really quite that age, and also wonderfully that they inform Cardinal DiNardo as well. He meets annually with them to get their input, to get their thoughts, to understand what their world is like and how the church can respond to that. He comes to our annual conference and hears confession. You're not going to learn.
I bet
more.
Priests learn a lot hearing confession.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yep. And so we have usually about 20, 30 priests at AYC, the conference, to hear young people's confessions. So they're getting input and they're responding. And Cardinal DiNardo is just an enormous supporter of our young people.
Oh, that is excellent. So I'm very curious about this youth council. So how many members are on it generally?
Depending on the year, between 60 and 100.
And what ages?
It's all high school.
All high school, okay.
And every parish and every Catholic high school is invited to send up to 2 people.
Okay. And so that it's kind of volunteer, people go in. But what kind of attitude do you get from the kids, the teenagers there on the council? Like, are they very eager to change things, or they kind of, you hear a lot of glowing stuff about the church? Is it positive, negative? What does it feel like?
Well, because the kind of kids we get, they're, sometimes I think they're holier than I am. So
probably some of them are.
That could be. So we kind of get folks who are pretty engaged in their faith at that point. And so actually the challenge for us sometimes is remember to think about your friends, your peers. What are they going through? Because they're not where you are right now.
Yeah.
And how do we help them to grow?
How long have you been the director of this office?
This office, 5 years.
5 years? So in the 5 years that you've been working with this youth council and the other youth ministers, what information or policies or programs have you seen change based on what the youth council shares with Cardinal in your office?
So every year, AYC is planned by them. They choose 2 different themes, and the Cardinal chooses one of their themes as the theme. Mm-hmm. So that's one thing they've been doing for 67 years now. in addition, we're trying really hard to dig into, and it's a challenge, a valid challenge, to dig into middle school ministry. Because as we know, that's where we're losing our kids.
Not in high school, but middle school.
Yeah. Middle school
okay.
is typically where they make the decision that they're leaving the church or not.
Wow.
Doesn't mean they don't still hang around because they have to because mom and dad are sending them to catechesis.
Yeah.
But they've pretty much checked out. And so steering this ship is really, really difficult. We really need to be doing for middle schoolers what we have been doing for high schoolers for many years, doing much more relational ministry, getting them into small faith groups, all of those kinds of things, so that it's not just catechesis. That's enormously important, but catechesis isn't going to do them good unless they're lifelong disciples.
Yeah, I'm sure this is stirring up in our Catholic Lunch Break listeners a lot of those feelings. Like maybe they have middle schoolers right now or high schoolers that they're concerned about, and they're thinking, "Oh my gosh, what can I do as a parent to affect them?" I mean, and the answer is definitely a longer term kind of thing. But do you have any advice? Is there a secret that works really well that you give advice to parents about?
Absolutely. The 3 top ways you keep young people involved in the church: first is parents, second is parents, third is parents.
Yes, that's the secret.
The research tells us very clearly that young people who live in households where parents live an active faith life are young people who become lifelong disciples.
Mm-hmm.
So that is first and foremost the key. And then that forces us as adults or as parents to think through, okay, do my kids see me and experiencing living my faith? Because so often it's private.
Yeah.
At least for Anglos.
Well, we take that parable of the tax collector and the Pharisee, and we say, okay, no, I shouldn't put my faith out there. I should keep it private between me and God. Otherwise, it's not real. But we have to model it for our kids, especially as parents, right?
Yep. So one of the things we're doing right now is we're going to spend the next year putting together a task force to look critically at this issue. So, and part of that is to begin to understand we are now moving into a new generation.
Yeah.
The next generation Alpha. And so there's not a lot of research on that right now, but they are different. And so we need to begin to look at how do we respond to their particular needs.
Yeah, of course.
And again, it's a mixed bag. There are so many kids these days who's, I'm 64, so I grew up in an age where, it was small town, everybody was Catholic, all that stuff. And these kids don't live in that world.
No.
They live in a world where families aren't close by necessarily. Maybe mom and dad are divorced. A whole variety.
The internet changes all those dynamics too.
The internet is going to be the destruction of our society. I'm convinced.
What makes you say that, man? You can't just drop that on radio and not expect a follow up. Okay, tell me about the internet and teens. You see this in your work daily. How is the internet affecting us?
It's for everyone. The internet allows people to enter into echo chambers, and they stay there. Whether it's politics, whether it's religion, whether it's sexual identity, all these things, people just kind of jump in, and now I'm just going to stay here, and I'm not going to listen to the other voices out there that might help me to grow holistically.
Right.
And so that I have a lot of fear. I have 3 grandchildren, and I worry about them.
Yeah, I bet. Okay, so we're talking with Tim Colbert, who is the director for the Office of Adolescent Catechesis and Evangelization for the Archdiocese of Galveston, Houston. And we're coming close on our time here. Maybe we can come back a little bit after the break. But Tim, I wanted to ask you, what do you tell parents to do when they're working with your office? Like, how do they keep their kids in church without just telling them you must go to church?
Well, that's the foremost method.
just lay down the law. Okay.
That's right. And and it is a parent's responsibility to do that. we do that lovingly. It's like, these are our expectations, and we do that. But the rest of those studies tell us that if you have parents who live faith, if you pray together as a family, if you do service together, and when I walk into your home, I recognize that it's a Catholic home.
That's the easiest change you can make.
It
put
is.
up some statues, put up some icons.
Yep.
Yeah, put up a crucifix.
Yeah. So in my home, we have this beautiful big Madonna of the Chair. You see as soon as you walk in the door, and then there are, of course, crucifixes in each of my kids' rooms, and all of those.
Yeah. And that's not gonna change everything overnight, but that is the easiest. That is the most surface level change that you got to do.
Yep.
I mean, that's a beginning
Here's the
step.
message,
Yeah.
right? This is what my parents believe. Now I need to understand why.
Okay. So we're going to take a quick break here, and when we come back, I want to ask you, what's the most exciting thing happening in your world? You're listening to the Catholic Lunch Break on AM 1430, where we catch up on everything Catholic in Houston, and we'll be back right after this.
Hi, I'm Joel Matthews, business owner and partner with TRO CPA. I'm a proud sponsor of this Guadalupe Radio Network station, and I think you should be too. As Catholics, I believe we should put our money where our faith is. And as a CPA, I help small business owners make wise decisions about their money every day. You can find out more about what I do and why I sponsor KSHJ by going to my website, trocpa.com. That's trocpa.com.
Hi, Mike Marshall from St. Francis of Sales in Sharpstown. Join our family for a weekend of food and fun. It starts with an all-you-can-eat crawfish boil Saturday, May 6th from 6 till 9 p.m. $40 pre-sale or $45 at the door. The bazaar is Sunday, May 7th from 11 until 8 p.m. with food from many different countries and fun. Kids rides, bingo, and live music. St. Francis of Sales is at 8200 Roos in Sharpstown. For more information and tickets, see our website, sfds-houston.org.
Fullness of Truth invites you to attend Search and Rescue, How to Bring Loved Ones Back or Into the Church Conference at St. Anthony of Padua Church in the Woodlands on Friday, April 28th and 29th. Hear presentations from TV and radio host Father Larry Richards, apologist and author John Martinoni, evangelist and podcaster Michael Gormley, and author and speaker Joe McLean. Register to attend at fullnessoftruth.org. That's fullnessoftruth.org. God bless.
Loving Choice, the Catholic Pregnancy Help Center in Houston, invites you to attend the Luncheon for Life on April 26th. Come and see what God is doing through the only pregnancy help center in Houston that is specifically Catholic. The speaker is Dr. George Brooks, author of Building a Culture of Life. Always make the loving choice. Visit loving-choice.org today and sign up for the April 26th luncheon. That's loving-choice.org.
You're listening to the Catholic Lunch Break, where we catch up on everything Catholic in Houston. We're talking with Tim Colbert, who is the director of the Archdiocesan Office of Adolescent Catechesis, that's teens, and Evangelization, that's the church. So, Tim, I wanted to ask before we move into our next interview, what's the most exciting thing that brings you joy in your work there with youth and adolescents?
The things that bring me the most joy, and I was just talking to them 2 weeks ago about this, is being with them. As I told them, if you lose the passion for that, then you need to get out of this business. So just being with them, listening to them, playing with them, praying with them, and particularly at the Archdiocesan Youth Council, because their leadership is so much on display as they're giving witness talks and helping to lead workshops and building the disciples amongst their peers. It's a beautiful thing to see.
Nice. And each year you have the Archdiocesan Youth Conference as well. What is it planned for this year?
So this year we are July 28th to 30th at the Hilton of the Americas. Registration is open. Get to it from our front page that he just shared with you. The theme this year is gift given, gift shared. Gift given, gift shared.
Oh, okay.
And so the idea is we spend the first part of the conference talking about the gifts that you received from God, exploring their charisms and their personal gifts, and then we send them forth to share those gifts to the world.
Hey, that's actually really great because everyone feels affirmed, and you get a lot of positive feedback when you do that kind of for any conference, not just for teens, but talking about what they have to contribute and what they've been given and what they can give back. That's actually a really good angle for that. So if people want to send their teens to the conference, about how many people do you expect at these?
We're looking at 1,400.
Okay, nice
so
and big.
We were 2,500. Then we had this little thing called a pandemic.
Oh, yeah.
And so now we're building back up.
Okay, great. So maybe we can be part of that. So how do people register for that? Is it archgh.org/OACE?
Yes, the link's right there on the front page of our website.
Okay, archgh.org/OACE for the Office of Adolescent Catechesis and Evangelization. Tim Colbert, thank you so much for joining us here on the Catholic Lunch Break. I want to keep in touch with you because you can put those free PSAs on our airwaves anytime. We offer these free public service announcements for any Catholic ministry in Houston. And so, as a matter of fact, if there's anyone listening right now, they can go to grnonline.com, send me an email, and we can get you some announcements for free. Check that out. And Tim, you got to be sure to take advantage of that.
All right. Thanks for having me.
Okay, great. So for our next interview, Christians in the Holy Land have actually continued to face a humanitarian crisis, and it's been the focus of a meeting this month in Rome with members of the Order of the Holy Sepulchre. Our executive director, Wyatt Goolsby, sat down with Tom Standish, a member of the Order's Grand Magisterium, and Tom is back home in Houston after his trip to Rome.
Thanks, Tim. Wyatt Goolsby here, the Executive Director of KSHJ, talking about the plight of Christians in the Middle East with Tom Standish. He's currently a member of the Grand Magisterium, one of only two from North America. Tom, tell me about the Equestrian Order of the Holy Sepulchre of Jerusalem. Most Catholics don't know about how its members support the Church in the Holy Land.
Well, thanks, Wyatt. I'm glad to be here today. The Order of the Holy Sepulchre is a papal order that really few people have heard about. The membership isn't large, about 30,000 worldwide, about 10,000 in the United States and North America. The support to the Holy Land comes through donations from our members, and those donations make up about 85% of the budget of the Latin Patriarch for the Holy Land.
You and your wife have been members of the order for more than 2 decades. Why did you want to be a part of it? What motivated you?
Wyatt, when one experiences the Holy Land, when you have an opportunity to see the needs there and what happens to the Christians in the Holy Land, it's really very motivating to try to do something to help. Being in the order is really more than just financial. There's an opportunity, of course, to lift our prayers to help the Christians there, to have a presence there, to go on pilgrimage to the Holy Land, and of course to try to help them financially. And all of these, my wife and I have found very fulfilling spirituality in helping out.
So as you mentioned, the order has been focused on building up the church in places like Israel, Palestine, Cyprus, Jordan. But as you mentioned, the order does more than just pay for building renovations. When did the focus begin to switch more on the plight of Christians and the humanitarian need?
In the last 15 years, there's been a lot of upheaval throughout the Middle East, particularly in Syria, Iraq, and Egypt. And those civil wars or disturbances that occur there have really caused particularly the Christians in those countries to come under a lot of duress. And many of those Christians have begun to flee their homelands and move to other areas in the Middle East, but particularly Jordan. And as such, there's been a very large influx of Christian refugees into the Latin Patriarch or the Holy Land. And our shift has very much changed now towards providing humanitarian aid to those refugees who are joining the other Christians in the Holy Land.
Why is it so hard for Christians to support themselves in that region, that part of the world?
Well, first, it's just a very poor area to begin with. If you look at Jordan, you look at Palestine, there's really no business infrastructure there. There's no corporations to hire people to go. You say, well, what is it that they can even do? Well, primarily it's tourism. They rely heavily on tourism, and many of the Christians work in that industry. and the other is health care. If you're able to make it through college to nursing school, then there's opportunities available in the medical field. But outside of that, the people are generally extremely poor, and without an ability to subsidize the hospitals, to subsidize the schools, there really wouldn't be much opportunity for Christians to go to church or to simply receive necessary food and other items, clothing that they need every day.
And I imagine that many Christians have tried to leave the Middle East altogether due to all these problems. Still, there are many that don't want to leave. They are set on being there. Why do you think it's so important that Christians continue to have a presence in the Holy Land?
You know, I think one of the most moving parts of going to the Holy Land and being there is to visit with the Christians and pose that question. You know, why do you stay? It's so hard here. There's so many negatives happening every day. Why don't you just find someplace else that's calmer? And the answer to that is they say, we've always been here. We've been Christians since Christ was here. We're not leaving now. It's been hard before. It'll be hard again. And this is our home. This is the home of Christ, and this is where we're going to stay.
Members of the order don't openly solicit donations, but if people who are not members want to donate to Christians in the Holy Land, how can they?
I think the easiest way for someone who wished to help out the Latin Patriarch would be to go to our website, which is Equestrian Order of the Holy Sepulchre, and look on there for donations and be able to donate. Dollars given to the Holy Sepulchre go directly to the Latin Patriarch. There's no other use of those funds. And so you can be assured that the money is being used there to help your fellow Christians.
And Pope Francis has such a high regard for the work the Order does. We appreciate your taking the time to talk to us about it. Tom Standish with the Order of the Holy Sepulchre, thanks so much.
Thank you for having me, White.
And if you don't want to try to spell Equestrian Order of the Holy Sepulchre to find that website, then you can just look on the show notes for this video. And if you're not watching our video on Facebook, YouTube, or Twitter, you can find it at GRN Online at any of those locations. GRN Online on Facebook, YouTube, or Twitter. You're listening to the Catholic Lunch Break. We're catching up on everything Catholic in Houston. We do this every Monday. It's a great way to kind of set you up for the week. And this week is a busy week in the Catholic world of Houston. First of all, we've got our own prayer breakfast tomorrow morning in Katy at La Finca. There is still time for you to sign up for that. $10 for the breakfast. And you can do that at grnonline.com. Great way to network with some other Catholics and hang out and be inspired before you go to work that day. We help you start the day with prayer and take Jesus to work with you or wherever you're going that day. And as you're thinking about our prayer breakfast tomorrow morning, I need to let you know there is a brand new location that we're trying out on May 16th. So when you go to grnonline.com, you can see the details for that. It's going to be at Sylvia's Enchilada Kitchen on Woodway, close to St. Michael Catholic Church, and we would love to have you there for that. So there's opportunities for business sponsorships on the tables. Again, the breakfast is only $10. We're going to have a great speaker, great priest for that one as well, May 16th. All of that information is at grnonline.com. So that's tomorrow and May 16th. On Thursday, the Shroud of Turin exhibit opens up at the National Museum of Funeral History. Did you know that we have a National Museum of Funeral History here in Houston? David, I mean, this is news to you, right?
It is news.
You've never heard of this.
Not until...
It's a great museum.
I know, I heard. And, you know, what a great time to go check it out now with this exhibit opening on Thursday.
So it's not a Catholic museum, but I am hoping to talk to their director, executive director, next week on the show after their Shroud exhibit opens, because they've got some really relevant Catholic exhibits. They've got papal burials, but then this Shroud of Turin exhibit is going to be super unique. You know, the Shroud of Turin is probably the burial cloth of Jesus. I mean, there's controversy about it. There's scientific debate and everything, but when you look into it, man, it sure does look authentic. So even if it's not, it's still one of the most significant relics in the whole world. Just the fact that people think it's the burial cloth of Jesus.
Right.
So what they've got. This is not just a museum exhibit about it. They have a certified life-size replica of the Shroud, certified, It's about as close to lifelike as you can get without having the actual thing. And it was woven with fibers from the same plants, from the same seeds, from the same soil that the original is from.
Wow.
I mean, it's incredible. So
wow.
Check out the National Museum of Funeral History. That exhibit opens on Thursday for the public. The Dominican Sisters of Mary Immaculate Province are having their East Meets West Gala on Thursday night, and that is big in my life because I actually get to be the MC. Thank you, sisters, for that honor.
Right.
It's so much fun to help you out there and to support your ministry of teaching, preaching, prayer, a community life, consecrated virginity. It's a huge thing, and I think they're sold out. So
Yes.
I'm not really doing this to promote the event for you listeners, but I do want you to be aware of HoustonDominicans.org. Go and check them out. Write the sisters a note there. If you've never visited their convent before, make an effort to do it because it's a beautiful place and they are very joyful, welcoming people that would love to have you join them for prayer someday. It's on the south side of Houston on Gasmer Street. Near Highway 90. But pray for their gala this Thursday night, that it goes well, that there's a lot of fun, a lot of joy, and that they raise a lot of money to keep their Dominican order sustained through another year. Also, we're going to be doing some broadcast from parish festivals. I know a couple of them are coming up on May 7th. I know Mary Queen has invited us to come out, and St. Matthias and Magnolia has invited us to come out. They're like opposite poles of the metro area there, Friendswood and Magnolia. So I'm looking forward to that. If you haven't listened before on a Saturday, I encourage you to do that because that is when you'll hear our special broadcast. Plus the Spirit World, a Fullness of Truth this weekend. I'm sure you can get some last-minute passes for that. That's going to be at St. Anthony of Padua Catholic Church, April 28th and 29th. That's this Friday and Saturday. And guess what? One of the speakers is Joe McClain. If you know who Joe McClain is, you're going to love that. Go to St. Anthony of Padua, or go to fullnessoftruth.org to get tickets for that this weekend. And, of course, the Catholic Lunch Break that you were listening to is underwritten in part by Loving Choice Catholic Pregnancy Help Center that we heard from earlier in the show. Guided by the Holy Spirit and the teachings of the Catholic Church, the mission of Loving Choice is to extend God's love in the form of emotional, educational, material, and spiritual support to parents and families as they embrace the challenges and even the blessings that can come from an unplanned pregnancy. This is a huge way that Catholic Church is able to help women in those situations, and you can find out more about it at their luncheon this Wednesday. They have a lunch this Wednesday at the DoubleTree by Hilton near Hobby Airport. Go to loving-choice.org, loving-choice.org, and look for that luncheon. I would love to see you there this Wednesday. Always make the loving choice. That'll do it for another Catholic Lunch Break here on AM 1430, part of the Guadalupe Radio Network. Thank you to David. Thank you to Valeria. Thank you to Carol for helping run the show. Thank you to Tim Colbert from the Archdiocese, to Tom Standish, Wyatt Goolsby, and Aaron Colaco for being our awesome guest today. And thank you to you for listening, being Catholic, and taking part of your lunch break to join with us. For now, stay Catholic, Houston, and may God richly bless you.